You are listening to the Starter Girls podcast with Jennifer Loading. Whether you are starting a project, starting a business, starting a brand, or starting a movement, we are here to talk about it. And the Starter Girls show is brought to you by Walt Mills, photographer of Glad Models Agency. If you are in the Dallas or surrounding area and you're looking for some photography work, check out Walt Mills. You can learn more about him and his work at photosbywalt.com. And with that, we are going to get this thing started. Today is a great day to be brave. You might as well start now. You have the power to change your circumstances any day you decide. Let today be that day. Rise up, be amazing, be you, do you. All right, my friends, I'm super excited to welcome my guest to the show today. So before I bring him on here, I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about him. I'm super excited about this. Kimon Lee is a devout Christian, married his high school sweetheart, and together they have two boys, Evan and Ethan, and they are super cute. His background is in electrical engineering, and he worked at Intel for 13 and a half years before getting the entrepreneurial bug to start his own business. In late 2002, he was introduced to the world of home-based business. He started with no business being in business, but with passion and determination turned a part-time venture into a multi-million-dollar opportunity. Today, Kimon has earned over $1 million, is a consistent high six-figure earner. Having reached the top position in two home-based companies, Kimon has helped thousands of people realize the power and freedom of building a business from home. He is committed to taking his knowledge and experience to help as many people as possible go further than they have ever imagined. Most recently, Kimon was one of 60 professionals invited by world-renowned leadership expert Dr. John Maxwell to participate in the first ever network marketing leadership training event, How to Win in Network Marketing and the 3X Formula, all designed from the leadership perspective on how to grow and lead a team. Kimon has also been featured in articles in KivoDaily.com, ThriveGlobal.com, NewYorkWeekly.com, and he recently was named as one of the top 10 most influential people in 2020. How amazing, Kimon. I'm super excited to have you on the show today. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I am excited to be here.
Absolutely. So for our listeners, I have to tell you guys really quick. So Kimon, I'm going to tell Chris back here because I didn't get to give him any briefing about this, but Kimon and I met through a network marketing company. And so you were a leader in that company. You've done incredible things, moved on to another company, have done amazingly well. I love that you're with John Maxwell because he's one of my favorite influencers and you're doing great things there. So I am just excited to get to hear everything that's been going on with you. And so what I want to do is have you kind of take us back. Tell us a little bit about how this came about for you, what you're doing, and let's hear some good stuff here.
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here. Hopefully my voice hangs on enough. I just lost my voice this weekend and it started to come back. So, but I am super excited to be here. Thank you for having me on. So yeah, my journey started in 2002. I was working at Intel full time. My younger brother called me up and said, "Hey, do you want to make some extra money?" And I jokingly said, "Duh, who doesn't want to make extra money?" And he said, "Well, I have a good friend of mine who is a pilot. My brother worked for American Airlines." And he said, our friend, Doug, he's a 777 captain. He wants to be in business with us. I couldn't believe that a pilot wanted to be in business with me. So I said, okay. So I went to my very first home-based business briefing. I got done looking at all the information. I was just blown away, but I still didn't understand what they were talking about, like what my role was going to be, because I had never owned a business, never done a home-based business, never done sales. So I was really confused on kind of the whole process. And so I got involved, didn't do much for 2 or 3 months, went to an event, got the bug. They always say you get the bug where the information goes from your head to your heart. And I got that bug and came back and started to really grow the business. Struggled for about 6 months, almost quit about 1,000 times. And then I got some really good mentorship. And with that mentorship, I ended up matching what I was making 8 months later at Intel. I ended up marrying my high school sweetheart. At our honeymoon, she said, "You know what, when we get done with our honeymoon, why don't you just go full time?" And I said, "Really?" And this is what, women, you guys have such a great insight. She said, "When you leave, that's what I want you to do, is just do this full time." And I said, "But what about our benefits?" And she said, "Kimon, if you can make 3 times more and pay your own benefits, isn't it best to do that than just get paid X amount and get free benefits?" And I was like, wow, I guess you're right. So I went back after our honeymoon and I resigned, and that was almost 17 years ago. So I've been kind of in the industry for the last 17 years, and then had the opportunity just over 2 or 3 years ago to meet you at a couple of events that we were doing in Dallas. And so that's kind of where we're at now. Now I've been growing a new company that's about 3 years old. Super excited about kind of the direction this company is going. And, after almost 20 years of being in this industry, you study a lot of the aspects of the business side and how to grow it. You look at the nuances and a lot of those things. And, maybe that's my engineering background. But I studied this industry for a long time. So making this final choice that I believe is my final choice in companies that I can hopefully ride off into the sunset with, we're excited about, some of the things we've been doing for the last 19 months. So we've been here kind of growing and mentoring and coaching individuals for the last 19 months here, and just kind of loving it. And so just with that, and then of course, COVID, it's taught us how to pivot. So we have my oldest son, Evan, is 10, and my youngest son, Ethan, is 8. And so with them doing some homeschooling, the wife working also part-time, working from home part-time. So it's kind of been challenging learning how new life through COVID works, but working from home has really made it a lot easier for us. So it's been quite the experience.
Yeah, this is such great stuff. And, you said so many neat things in there, but you're right. I think even about the COVID thing, because we've all had to make these pivots. I mean, and just in a lot of ways, but I think what's so been kind of great about there's been a lot of just reinvention, like birth of reinvention here. Like we're learning how to navigate things differently. And so I will say, having been in the industry, because I've been in the network marketing industry, I think this November will be my 21st year that I've been in that industry. So you do learn a lot of things, a lot of nuances and things that are not working, and you've just done phenomenally well. And so it's really neat to see and hear somebody that's been able to take it in that industry and be able to navigate that and just have incredible success with that. And having even coming, I think, from the engineering background, because those are completely different fields, like completely, and to be able to come in and take that and move into this different sector and navigate that really well. So I'm impressed with all of it. So I know you're a John Maxwell coach, which I love. Like I said, John Maxwell is one of my favorite people. I talk about him all the time. I love to watch his minutes, and I've read several of his books, his leadership. We were talking about that actually in the last podcast, the 5 levels of leadership, and when you can get to the top and have the influence and the impact. So I want to talk about that a little bit, how you kind of navigated, what brought you to that, how you got into that. And because obviously that plays a big role in what you're doing with network marketing, having the influence and stuff. So I want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So the John Maxwell thing kind of fell into my lap just based on, I guess, the years of experience. And John Maxwell, obviously, as you know, he's been such an icon in the leadership field as, one of the really the foremost leadership experts in the world, and training, from presidents to, some of the top business people. So I think John Maxwell really recognized how much network marketing and leadership go hand in hand, because they always say if you don't have people following you, then you're just on a walk by yourself, right? And leadership really is about developing other people, and really great leaders don't have people following them. Leaders really have the ability to create other leaders, and that's some of the things that I've learned. So the John Maxwell thing happened he was getting ready to venture into the network marketing field and start coaching this organizations with just network marketing in general. So all leaders, no specific companies, but he understood that this industry produces probably some of the greatest leaders out there. So he wanted to dive in there and use his expertise to help these leaders. So he decided to start a program, and through a really good friend of mine, she basically called me up, gave them my name. And it was amazing the vetting process that they do, because John Maxwell doesn't really want very many people to be attached to his name, just because he's done so well in the, so many years to create his name and his brand, that he doesn't want anyone really attached to his, when it comes to especially this industry, because as you know, in every industry, there's good and bad.
Right.
So they gave them my information and my name, told them a little bit about me. And what I didn't know is that they followed me every post, everything I did, they literally followed for months and months at a time. They did all this research on me, and then they finally called me up one day and said that I had made the cut, maybe, right? So they said, we want to interview you and talk to you about this. And so we ended up having that conversation. Then we flew to Atlanta. We got to spend almost a half a day with John Maxwell exclusively. He went through a bunch of topics, trainings, and then he basically talked to us about, this is what the program is going to entail, and this is what I want your role to be, and this is what I want you to talk about. And then he did a live simulcast cast for the actual training. So it was a really great experience to just kind of go through that, but more importantly, be around like-minded people who have really done well in the industry and really have made the industry a great place for people to look and land. They led with integrity. They just, a lot of the great qualities that great leaders have. And then obviously getting the leadership training from John Maxwell was absolutely phenomenal. Just some of the things, I've never gotten writer's cramp ever. And I probably took so many notes that my hand was just absolutely cramped up. But it was just unbelievable amounts of information in a small room that was maybe 1,500 square feet with about 50 top network marketing leaders. And then him just talking directly to us was just really a phenomenal experience from the leadership perspective. So it was pretty awesome.
Wow. I was getting all like mesmerized listening to all that. No, because I love John Maxwell's work. He has an amazing way of saying things and putting things very simple, but getting his message across that it's effective. And so I can only imagine in having to be in that space with those being, with the incredible leaders and just in that little small private community. So it's just, incredible. So
yeah.
Talking about this, who would you say, obviously John Maxwell, we don't have to ask that question, but who has been some influencers for you that you would say have just really impacted who you are today?
So I think in the beginning, it was Jim Rohn. I read a lot of his books, and he's probably one of the foremost leadership experts when it comes to personal growth. And one of the things that I read early is when you're building a business in general, I think there's so many challenges that you have to go through that are unspoken. And everybody likes to talk about how great being successful is and owning a business. But a lot of times people are afraid to talk about the challenges that are associated with growing your own business. Now, is it worth it? 100%, 10 times over. But Jim Rohn said something, and I have this written down, and I always look at this because as we go through challenges as entrepreneurs, we have to understand that it's not always exactly what we're looking for in the results, but a lot of times it's the process that really helps us enjoy being an entrepreneur. And he said something, he says, learn to be happy with what you have while pursuing everything you want. And I think for me, growing up, I grew up with a single mom. It was just my brother and I. And my mother used to always tell me, you can have everything you want in life if you're willing to work for it. And that every decision you make will have a consequence to it. So whether it's positive or negative, every decision we make has a consequence. And so growing up, just reading a lot of Jim Rohn's books and listening to his tapes, I love the fact that he really put it to perspective that yes, it's going to be difficult. But at the end of the day, it comes down to serving individuals. Like I love what you're doing here. You give so much value in your podcasts to individuals that are pursuing from so many different fields that you can take nuggets from that. And it's about serving individuals. And it goes back to Jim Rohn saying, if you help enough people get what they want, you can have everything you want, right? And when I first started in network marketing, I remember him saying, if you help enough people get rid of their bills, your bills magically disappear. And so, being money motivated at the time, I'm like, oh my gosh, if I could help all these people get their bills away, like, what does that mean? And it was really about serving individuals, helping them achieve their goals. Because if you help enough people achieve their goals, especially in our industry, magically, you just create this unbelievable business that creates income for you that magically makes you get to a point where your bills disappear. So Jim Rohn, I've read a lot of Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins is one of those individuals that you could listen to his information 5 different times within 10 years, and the information will resonate with you differently. So the Giant Within is one of those, books that I've read multiple times. And so I've been a really great advocate of reading. I try to read a ton of books. Personal growth has been one of my top things, especially John Maxwell preaches that. And then John Maxwell taught me something because I wasn't a big reader. A lot of people think all Asians love school. Not me. I hated school. Hated school. I was more money motivated than education driven because I thought, hey, if I get a good job as an engineer, I'll make a ton of money. So one of the things that he actually, really preached about was you just got to be focused on certain things in your life, right? You got to be focused on certain things in your life, and you got to do what you're passionate of. And I will tell you, I was never passionate about engineering, But one of the things John Maxwell taught me was when it comes to reading is he said, how many of you could read 12 books a year? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't think I've read 12 books in my entire college career. So he said, well, here's the way you do it. He said, if you read 10 pages a day, every day, could you do it? And I said, yeah, 10 pages is like nothing. You could read 5 in the morning, 5 at night, or just 10 pages. But if you read 10 pages a day, every day for 30 days, that's 300 pages. The average book written is under 300 pages. He said, so if you look for books that are geared towards what you're passionate about and what you're trying to become better at, he said, if you get those books and just read 10 pages a day, within 1 year, you would have read 12 personal development books. He said, who would you be a year from today if you read 12 different books? And that has been my calling. So every month I read a personal development book and a spiritual book to help my spiritual walk. And then also at the same time, be able to help my personal growth, because one of the things I truly believe, especially in my industry, is that you can't give what you don't have. And it's very difficult to pour from an empty cup. So it's about really constantly growing as a person to be able to constantly fill other people up. And I think our lives are really about growing every day, because like Tony Robbins says, you're either growing or dying. There's no in between. And we have a choice on which one we want to do. So I think those people really have been an impact in my life, to surround myself around people that can really pour into you. So I would definitely recommend, just look. There are so many people out there. Oh my gosh, there's so many great books out there for men and women. So
I was listening to all that and I'm like, wow. I'm like, Chris knows I get excited in here. He's my camera guy. When I get excited about talking about personal development, because you said something that, like, when you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, I got chills down my back, the reading. And you want to know why? Because reading was also something that I never enjoyed doing like that. If it wasn't something that I could watch on TV or just like magazines, I flip them backwards. Like I read from the back to the front, right? So
right.
When you said this, because I didn't share this with you, but in 2018, after I came through my health crisis, we were at a leadership conference and we were talking about John Maxwell, and I made a decision that month because I was sitting kind of in a bad place where I'd had all this success. I'd had all these things that happened, but I wasn't passionate about what I was doing. And I really didn't know where to go with that. I knew that I just didn't like what was happening, but I also know when you focus on things that you don't like happening, they keep happening because you're focusing on them. And so one of the decisions I made that day was to read. It was to start reading. And I did that every day. I still do that to this day. I read or I listen to a motivational audio every single day. And in 1 year, I will tell you, when I fast forward, I had wrote an affirmation. I started that in January of 2018. I wrote an affirmation 2 months later, tucked it away in a notebook, and I pulled it out last October. So now let's fast forward 2019, October. I pulled it out and I was actually coaching somebody, and I put 5 things on that affirmation. 3 of the 5 things had come to pass. And I had completely forgotten about it. And I attribute everything that has happened to my success today to opening that book in 2018 and making that change in my life to read positive motivational stuff every single day. So when you talked about
Yes.
that, 100%, because I believe personal development, in fact, I exercise all the time. Everybody that knows me knows that I exercise a lot. I put personal
Yeah.
development above that. I put that reading is above that exercise on my scale, because I think when your head is in the right place and you come from a place of emotional intelligence, everything that you do
Yeah.
in life is 100% spot on. So I love
Yes.
everything that you just said, all of it. It was amazing.
Yes. And one of the things too with what you just said too is that, one of the things that I really attribute some of my success to is that a really good mentor of mine early in the day, he said, the same thinking that got you to where you're at cannot be the same thinking that will get you further. And so by how do you get different thinking? Well, you got to read. You got to get different perspectives. You got to get taught by people who know how to think differently and help you look at different things. And they say your mind works best like a parachute. It works best when it's open. So you got to be open enough to be able to learn some of these things. That way you can then from that point grow. Because if you're not growing, then you're trying to solve problems and change your life with the same thinking that got you there, which is literally impossible. That's why I believe personal growth is so important for each and every one of us, if and only if you really want to change the situation and the dynamic and where you are in your life.
100%. The,
So,
the teacher
yeah.
arrives when you're ready to receive, right?
Yes. Yeah,
100%.
absolutely. Yep.
Love it. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay, so Kimon, this is kind of a heartfelt question for you. So what do you love most about what you get to do? What's the best part of all this?
Yeah, I think it's the best part for me is that it's being able to serve individuals. I read a lot, not only just in personal development books, but really my faith is very, very important to me. And there's a scripture in Luke where it says, "To whom much is given, much will be required." And that simply just is that, I believe God's gifted me with so many gifts and talents, and what I do with those gifts and talents is going to be the gift back I give to him. And so I believe that my calling is to help as many people as possible, because once you know what you have and you know what it's allowed us to do, my wife and I, we've been able to raise both of our boys with no babysitters. We've been able to raise both of our boys not having to send them to daycare. We've been able to really pour into my boys. And the network marketing industry has really allowed me to do that. Now, if you were to ask me that almost 19 years ago, I would have never believed it. I would have been the skeptical guy that said, there's no way you can do it. Only the top people make money, and special people make money, and good speakers make money. People with big networks make money. That would have been me. But so I almost feel like I have a calling to really help those individuals and serve those people, because I love the fact that the startup to get involved, the pros and the cons, right? The upside. I believe it's so low that the average person with enough sweat equity, being able to put into it, and the desire to do something special with their lives, I believe they can do that in this industry. It will not be easy, but it will be worth it. So I love the fact that I can share my knowledge, because after almost 20 years, as you know, there are some things that I would do differently if I started from scratch again. There are some things I would do to help me accelerate my success, to get me the results I needed. I think most of us, I know myself, I'm very stubborn. And I remember getting started and sitting down with my mentor and him saying, "Okay, Kim, and this is what you got to do." And I'm like nodding my head. "Yep. Okay. Gotcha. And then I would walk away and say, "Okay, that's stupid. I don't talk like this. I'm not going to say this. I'm not going to do that." And 6 months later, I found myself going, "Wow, you're trying to make assumptions and you're trying to figure this out on how it could be done better, even though you have never done it." So I finally surrendered. So I always tell people, my 19 years doesn't mean I'm better than you, but my 19 years means that I can help you not make the same mistakes that I made.
Right.
And so I love being able to share my knowledge and just really serve people. I love watching people do something spectacular with their lives and knowing the fact that I was just a small piece of that. I think that's what gives me the greatest gratification, is knowing that you had a something to do with someone's success. It may not be the whole thing, but you were at least part of it, is probably the most gratifying thing.
That's so great. I love it. So you were one of top 10 most influential people, which I think is so incredible. So how did that come about for you? How was that process?
So yeah, so it was really a kind of a crazy process. So a really good friend of mine, he is an editor, and he basically publishes a lot of articles. And he was doing a survey, and he was saying, who are some of the top people? So he was kind of going around in all these different industries, from counseling, and he was just surveying. And a good friend of mine that I actually graduated college with called me up one day and said, hey, I have a really good friend of mine who's an editor, and this gentleman is doing a survey, and I've sent him a bunch of your stuff and your trainings. And he said, you should give him a buzz. And I said, okay. So I ended up calling him up. He called me and said, hey, so I've been researching you and doing a bunch of things. I've been talking to people. I know people in the network marketing industry that have watched your trainings, and I'd like to feature you. I think that we've gotten some great feedback from some of the people that we've talked to. He talked to a really good friend of mine who actually worked with John Maxwell. So they got some of the video clips and the trainings that we did there. And so it was kind of one of those things where it's very, I guess when they told me, I said, well, am I really one of the top most influential? He said, but in the network marketing industry, if you've been doing this long for that many years full time, I would say you're pretty influential, because in the network marketing industry, it's very difficult to do it full time for that many consecutive years unless you're doing well, and you must have some sort of influence. So I said, okay. So we went through this process. We just talked about it, and kind of that's how it's kind of like fell into my lap. It's one of those things where they always say it's not what you know, it's who you know. And that's kind of how it developed. So it was pretty cool to get a lot of press that way, but be able to open the doors for this industry, because I think this industry has so much negative. Mm-hmm. It does have so much positive, but I think the industry is so big, and there are so many avenues for people to come in and just try it, that it creates a lot of negativity. Because people, as you know, if you don't have a lot of skin in the game, and it's, the upside is difficult, but you don't have to put a ton of money in.
Yeah.
It's easy to quit when you don't have a lot of skin in the game. So I think, unfortunately, the industry gets a bad rap. So it was nice to be featured in there as someone in the home-based business industry, because he was looking for someone in like every industry, So those like 65-page questionnaire, like all these questions, they vetted you. So it was pretty cool. Yeah, it was actually really cool.
So awesome. Congratulations. What an accomplishment to be able to have done this work and to be recognized for that. So congratulations to you. I think that is so awesome, Kimon. So I want to do a couple fun questions for you real quick. These are what I call my rapid fire. I love these questions. So real quick, morning or night person?
Morning.
Okay, awesome. I figured that you're not getting stuff done being a night person. You're up early in the morning ready to go.
I'm up early, and with 2 young kids. If you want to read and enjoy your coffee and do all that, you got to get up early.
Right. I got it. All right. Cat or dog person?
Oh, dog for sure.
Awesome. Do you guys have a dog?
Yeah.
Awesome.
We used to have a dog. When we had our second son, he's actually allergic to dogs. So we need to get some sort of dog that has hair, not fur. So there's only one dog that we could potentially get, and it's a Bichon. You probably
yes.
So those are So we haven't gotten a Bichon yet, just because they're like $3,000 or $5,000. So we haven't fully committed to that yet. So
hey, I might have a solution for you. My friend back here, Chris, doing the camera's like, I can give him mine. I've got one. We might have a solution today. How amazing.
There we go.
All right. What is your favorite food, Kimon?
Oh, my favorite food. I'm such a foodie. Well, you know me. I mean, I post stuff all the time, and I just love food. So when you say a specific food, I will probably tell you I like all food, because I just love trying new things. Like, there's literally nothing I won't eat. I'll try everything. But I do love sushi. I will have to tell you, even though I'm not really Japanese, I'm Chinese, I love, love, love sushi. So that would probably be my all-time favorite. If that was
I
my
love,
last meal,
yeah,
yeah, that's what I'll
last
probably have
one.
to do.
I love sushi
Yeah.
too. I'm with you on that. All right, Kim,
Yeah.
and if you could be any character superhero for a day, what would you pick?
Superhero, I would probably say Iron Man. And the reason I would pick Iron Man is because I think he dresses well, which I try to dress well all the time. Maybe it's that
Yeah.
metrosexual part of me. But I do like the fact that he's like an innovator. He does
Yeah.
things that most people don't do. He's not afraid to speak his mind. He's serving people, helping people. So I think a lot of those Tony Stark qualities, I would hope that maybe have some of those. Well, at least in my own mind, I hope I
Yeah.
do.
That's so good.
Yeah.
This is so good. Hey, this has all been super good. We could be here forever. I could ask you so many questions. Such great information. Kimon, you're doing awesome things. I love what you're doing, and I applaud you for all of your success. And way to take this industry and just really morph it and make it your own and create something out of it, because you're right. There is a lot of negative stigma behind it, but I know a lot of incredible people in the industry that have done amazing things. So I know it works, and I've seen it, and I think, so much can be attributed to your persistence, tenacity, and the fact that you're personally developing all the time, because that is the
Yes.
biggest indicator of success right there. So congratulations
Yep.
to you on that. So if our listeners wanted to learn a little bit more about you, find out what you're doing, where do we send them?
Yeah, so they can follow me on Instagram. It's just Kimon_Lee. And then my website, my personal website is KimonLee.com.
Okay, perfect.
So pretty simple.
Yeah, we'll make sure too, when this goes out, once we get all the edits and everything done, we'll make sure we have everything tagged on there and the website and all of that good stuff so everybody can find you. So I do want to
That's great.
say,
Thank you.
thank you, Kimon, for coming on to the show. We appreciate you so much and what you're doing. And I do want to say to the listeners, of course, if you like our podcast, be sure you give us a rating both on iTunes and Facebook, because we can't do this without you, and hit that subscribe button on the YouTube. And with that, I'm going to leave you guys with a final thought. I always did something I was a little not ready to do. I think that's how you grow. When there's that moment of, wow, I'm not really sure I can do this, and you push through those moments, that's when you have a breakthrough. And that's by Marissa Mayer. You guys take care, be safe, and be kind to one another. We'll see you next time.